South Korean woman scammed out of $50,000 by deepfake Elon Musk romance. Aussie couple lose $98,000 of their life savings in bank scam.
Imagine falling in love with one of the richest men in the world, only to realize it was all a lie. A woman from South Korea lost $50,000 to someone she thought was Elon Musk, but it wasn't him. It was a deep fake, a fake, a voice, and a scam. This is not just one bizarre story, this is the future of online scams, and it is already here. In this webinar, I am going to expose how scammers are using tricks, manipulation, and technology to trick even the smartest people. Stick with me till the end because what you learn today could protect you, your family, or maybe even your entire life savings. So you know this was a recorded webinar from last year, but don't let that fool you because the action starts now.
I would introduce your presenter today, Yagyadev Sharma. He has been in information technology for more than 2 decades and has played multiple roles, including website developer, information security consultant, and project manager. He has conducted several whiteboard sessions on information security, process improvement, and website development. Some of the brands he has worked with are American Express, Infosys, and IBM. Yagya has created a series of training for DIY website development to build web-based systems. Today, he is working on identifying the pain areas of website development, internet security, and development of websites and mobile applications. To present combat cyber threats, I would now like to turn over to Yagya.
Thanks for the introduction. Again, my name is Yagyadev Sharma. I start by welcoming everyone to this presentation. Cybersecurity is one of my favorite topics, and my goal in this presentation is to demonstrate the importance of education and training to stay protected online. Towards the end of this presentation, you will develop a good understanding of online security. The agenda of this presentation is pretty straightforward. It starts with cybercrime facts file. You will learn how cybercriminals are creating damage to society. In the next section, I will explain the key terms used in the cybersecurity. Then you will learn how cybercriminals exploit the human weakness to perform the cyber attacks. In this regard, I will talk about two human factors, greed and fear. Then you will learn major online frauds. In this case, you will learn email frauds, fraud websites, and handling fraud phone calls. I will share the recorded phone call for your learning purpose. I will also explain how these phone calls create a panic situation and the cyber criminals are successful in obtaining your sensitive information. In the next section, you will learn the importance of storing the login credentials, which means your web address, login ID, and password. In many cases, what I have seen is people use the same passwords for all the systems, which is certainly not an acceptable practice. Instead, use a different combination of login ID and password. But the main problem in this case is it's very difficult to remember the different combination of user ID and password, and that's when the password manager comes as the handy and powerful tool to address all the challenges you face, and it automates the process of logging into a specific system by automatically entering the password in the system. You will learn how you can maximize the security of login credentials using the password manager. Lastly, you will learn the top 5 tips to stay safe online. These are the recommendations I have exercised for several years. By exercising these recommendations, you can avoid cyber attacks to the large possible extent. About 90% of cyber crimes could have been avoided. The solution and the education both exist. However, the people who became victims of cybercrime did not have the necessary knowledge. Internet security is all about connecting you to the right training and right set of tools to stay safe online. In the next section, I will show the top statistics of cybercrime. You will learn the impact of cyber attacks on our everyday life. Let's take a look at those interesting data points. Kids and elderly people remain the main target of cyber criminals. 30% of cyber attacks target small business. 60% of Americans exposed to the fraud schemes. US target of 86% phishing attacks. I will talk about phishing attacks in subsequent slides. 1 in 302 emails targeting public administration users are malicious. Let's talk about the key terms frequently used in context of cybersecurity. The first term which is frequently pronounced in the online frauds and the cyber attacks is phishing. Phishing is frequently pronounced in context of fraud websites, emails, or SMS, or you can say the mobile messages. The phishing email or the SMS appears to be coming from the genuine authority and may contain the embedded malicious links pointing to the phishing websites maintained by the cybercriminals. This is important to understand. Phishing is not genuine, but the mirror copy of genuine websites. It can be the phishing SMS, it can be phishing email, or it can be the phishing website. So, as soon as you come across the term phishing, that means it's a fake or the fraud website or the messages. The overall purpose of building phishing website, email, or message is to gain access to your sensitive information because the cyber criminals know that they can't hack the banking or the similar bodies because these agencies have already invested millions of dollars to protect their systems online. That's why the cyber criminals they are looking out for the alternatives, and that's when they target the end users. And the best way to get the sensitive information from the end users is to use the phishing attacks. Since the phishing website looks the mirror copy of the authentic website, you even don't realize that you have been redirected to the fake or the phishing website. You think you are on the genuine website and you end up completing the transaction by entering your sensitive information, including your ID proofs or the credit card details or any other sensitive information that uniquely identifies you. The next term is reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is tracking down all your online activities related to your social media, online shopping, comments on various websites and blogs. And sometimes it may even be your internet browsing history. Reconnaissance can be applied to an individual or a group of people. As an individual, cybercriminals can send you personalized email or messages that contain the embedded malicious links related to offer, lottery, or any other similar offer. You might have seen this very frequently when it comes to the targeting of large group of people, such as people working in a company. Cybercriminals may target the complete organization by closely monitoring the online activities of the users associated with that organization. The whole purpose is to collect as much possible information about an organization. Once the cybercriminals have gathered sufficient information, they perform a specialized attack to penetrate the organization's network and damage the organization's reputation by stealing the sensitive information. This is important. So, reconnaissance is basically tracking down all your online activities. Say, for example, I am on Facebook or I am on Twitter, what I am posting related to politics or the offers or related to the bank feedback. So, looking at my feeds in Twitter or in Facebook, someone can easily figure out what exactly I am doing and what are my interests and hobbies when it comes to the online activities. The next term is the domain name. Essentially, the domain name is a unique address to identify your website. Many times, domain name and web address can be used interchangeably. So don't get confused if someone says, what's the web address of your website? Or what is the domain name of your website? They both can be used interchangeably. Authentication. Authentication means the system validates your identity using login credentials or any other credentials to identify you. Authentication is essentially about who you are. In a typical authentication process, you provide login ID and password. In a more robust method, the system requests an extra level of information. I am sure you must have used the extra level of information as an added layer of protection to your bank accounts, where the bank may send you an SMS or the mobile message having the random number, And unless you enter that random number during the logon process, the bank will not allow you to connect or to access your online account. Another term is the authorization. Authorization defines the features of the systems accessible to you. Consider an example. After you are successfully logged into online banking, you can transfer the funds, but you may not be allowed to generate the transaction reports of all bank customers on a given day. The next one is VPN. I'm sure you must have heard about this term very frequently during this pandemic. VPN is essentially the virtual private network, and this establishes a secure communication to keep you protected online. VPN creates a secure data communication tunnel for you. Information or the transactions traveling through this tunnel is secured and cannot be easily interpreted or intercepted by the bad guys or the cyber criminals. In the next section, you will learn how the cyber criminals are taking advantage of human weakness and become successful in their intentions. You will learn how fear and greed drives the cyber attacks. Let's discuss the fear factor. In fear factor, you can receive an email or you may even receive the phone call related to the legal action, fines, penalties, arrest warning, or sometimes you may also be declared as defaulter in the email or even in the phone calls. So essentially, the whole idea of using the fear factor is to create a panic situation. And when you are panic, you tend to do mistakes. And it's a kind of urgency which is set when there is a fear factor coming into the picture, and you immediately take an action and give your information to the cyber criminals because of any of this factor being imposed in email or in the phone call. I have a phone call that I am going to share with you in the subsequent slides, and then I will explain you how fear factor drives the entire cyber attacks strategy. The next factor is the greed factor. Greed factor is equally considered by cyber criminals to target the specific audience so that the audience are attracted to accept the offers, lottery, free items, or the massive discount. It all starts first with the email or the message which contains the malicious embedded link, and the embedded links point to the malicious website. As soon as you follow or click on the malicious link, you will be redirected to the websites which offers any of this item, offers lottery, free item, or massive sale or discount. So you have to be extra careful. And again, this phishing website may look exactly the replica of reputed websites such as Amazon, eBay, or it could be any other website where you have been doing frequent transactions. So you have to be extra careful when you are dealing with the phishing websites. I will tell you in the subsequent slides the tips and tricks you can use to identify the phishing websites and the immediate action you can take to combat these attacks. In the next section, I am going to cover the major online frauds, the detection, and the prevention strategy. When it comes to the major online frauds, there are several online cyber attacks and the frauds happening. However, for this presentation, I have picked up three items: phishing or fake emails, fraud phone calls, or fraud or phishing websites. Let me share an example of the fraud email which I received in my inbox, and I realized that I can use this email as a real-time scenario of fraud email so that you get an idea how the fraud email looks like. If you look at the snapshot of this email, it sounded an email coming from Amazon because it shows the term Amazon over here. But if you look at the email address of the sender, it is something else, mysocialbyte.co.in. So I realized that this is not an email from the Amazon, although the word Amazon is used over here before the email address. And this is the first thing you have to observe here, whether this email is authentic. And if you suspect this is not the email of Amazon, you can straight away mark this email as spam email. Next is fraud phone call. I have created the phone call based on my conversation with the caller. The caller claimed to be from the tax office. Let's listen to the phone call first and then I will explain you how I determined this was a fraud phone call and subsequent actions I have taken.
Hello? Hello, this is a call from ATO. You have an outstanding tax amount to be paid. A violation has been filed against you. You will now be redirected to tax officer.
If you carefully examine this phone call, it was an automated phone call and an urgency was created to talk to tax officer. Therefore, I decided to disconnect the phone call and immediately wrote an email to my tax consultant, and within few minutes I got the confirmation from my tax consultant confirming that this was the fraud phone call. I have attached the snapshot of the emails I exchanged with my tax consultant. This is the initial email I had sent immediately after this phone call, and this is the response I got back from my tax consultant confirming that this was the fake phone call. So, in a nutshell, to understand or identify the fraud or the fake phone call, the first thing is most of the phone calls are pre recorded, then they create a sense of urgency for you. The point is, if you receive the similar phone call, you don't have to become panic. Instead, you can ask the caller to validate his identity by asking him to send an email from his official email ID. Say, for example, if the caller claims to be from the Chase Bank, then his email ID should be something like someone@chase.com. And if the caller fails you to send the email to you, then you don't have any compelling reason to trust the caller and you can simply mark that as the fraud phone call. Other than that, if the caller sends you an email from the private ID such as Gmail or Yahoo, just ignore those emails and disregard the call. Now, the big question is how I identified the fraud phone calls. So, I have put down the three parameters on which I decided this was the fraud phone call. First of all, I consider myself, I know I am not a tax defaulter, I pay my tax on time. So, it was really hard to believe the caller. Second, it was an automated phone call. Third, the caller created a panic situation and sense of urgency. This is important because you are not giving enough time to think over and take the correct action. Here is the thumb rule. If you are calling the bank, insurance company, tax office, or the similar bodies, you have to authenticate yourself. Similarly, if someone is calling from the bank and claims to be the bank officer or the tax officer, then the caller has to validate his or her identity. And if you are not convinced with the response, then you can mark that as the fraud phone call. Let's talk about the fraud or the phishing websites. For the learning purpose, I have created two snapshots. On the left hand side, you see the fraud website of Google, whereas on the right hand side, you see the genuine or the authentic Google website. If you carefully examine the web address over here, there is an extra O that makes this website as the phishing website of Google. And if you look, everything else is pretty much the same other than the web address. And that's what I was trying to explain earlier, that people tend to become confused. They even don't realize that they are on the phishing website and they forget to observe a very small difference in the web address over here. And they think they are working on Google, but essentially they are working on google.com. So this is the best way to identify the fraud or the phishing website. Carefully examine the web address, and if you suspect the web address is not correct, you can straight away leave the website immediately. This is just an example of Google which I have taken for your learning purpose. The phishing or the fraud website can be of Amazon or eBay or any other e-commerce website. So essentially, if you have made a purchase on the fraud websites, you will never receive your goods or the services, because the whole purpose of creating the phishing website is to get your sensitive information, including your bank or credit card details. One of my students earlier asked me a question how you will be taken to the fraud or the phishing websites. There are two alternatives which cybercriminals can use to redirect you to the phishing websites. First one is the malicious embedded link in the emails or in the SMS, and accidentally, if you follow those links, you will be redirected to the websites maintained by the cybercriminals. In the second scenario, you might have seen there are pop-ups coming up on a certain website, and those pop-up display a flashing message, and the moment you click on it, you are taken to a potentially dangerous website which seems authentic, but those are the phishing websites. So I highly recommend using this approach of looking at the web address of the known websites, and if you suspect or if you see the difference in the web address, you can immediately leave those websites. Let me summarize the phishing attack. A phishing attack can happen in three steps. First of all, you get an email or mobile message that has embedded malicious links into it. These links point to the phishing websites maintained by the cybercriminals. Second, if you accidentally follow the embedded links in email or in mobile message or SMS, then you will be redirected to the phishing websites where you end up entering your financial or sensitive information. In the next section, you will learn the importance of storing the login credentials, and I will give you a quick demonstration of using the password manager, which is one of the powerful tool for managing your sensitive information, including login ID, password, web address, and even your payment details. Here are the key benefits of using the password manager. As I indicated it earlier, that users find it challenging to remember the combination of user IDs and passwords, which is now simplified by the password manager. You don't have to remember web address, login ID, and password. This is taken care by the password manager. Password manager remembers it for you. Second major benefit is it generates the complex password which are very difficult to guess. The password strength is important, and password manager generates a strong password for you. Then another important aspect of password manager is its ability to let you access your login credentials anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter if you are in USA, India, or in any other country. You can access your login credentials with great ease. All you need to do is to install the password manager, set up your account, and you are all good to go. Another strength of password manager is its ability to enter the credentials automatically. So you don't have to type in your login credentials. It's all just click of mouse and it's all taken care by the password manager. Before I jump to the demonstration of the password manager, here is the quick snapshot of the Amazon Prime I have taken. And I wanted to emphasize here that as soon as you are logged into a given system, immediately you see a small pop-up coming over here and prompting you to store your credentials in the browser itself. You can see the message Microsoft Edge will save and fill your password for this site next time. Never do that. I highly encourage to avoid this. You can simply click on never. Password manager is a better place to address these kind of requirements. And here is another one. I was doing the shopping recently at Costco Wholesale, and that's when I got this prompt to store my credit card. As soon as I entered my credit card details to complete the checkout process, immediately I got a prompt from the browser to store my credit card details. Again, I will suggest not to do it because this is not the powerful way of storing your payment information. I will simply click on no thanks, and I will store my password or the credit card details in the password manager. Let's now jump to the demonstration of the password manager. The purpose of this demonstration is to give an idea that the solution exists to a specific security need. Using this powerful tool, you can manage your login credentials even more effectively. This is the quick snapshot of the password manager I am using, And these are the various accounts which are stored in my password manager. At the moment, I have stored 29 logins and there are no credit card stored at the moment. Let me show you how exactly it works. When you hover over the mouse here on any of the account, then you see the three options. When I click on this, it will display my password over here. And if you click here, it will give you the option of copying the username or you can copy the password. And this arrow will help you launch the website. Let me click on this. It is taking me to the ClickBank website and you see the small icon on the right hand side where I have to enter the username and you see a small pop-up over here. So I select on this. Now you can see here that it has automatically entered my password. I will simply click on login. And there we go. I am successfully logged in. So that's the beauty of the password manager. I don't have to type in my login ID and password. All I have to do is to set up my credentials in password manager and I am good to go. In the next section, you will learn top 5 tips to stay safe online. I have exercised these tips for several years and they have been very effective. And I'm pretty confident that if you implement these tips in your everyday life, you will stay safe online. Tip number 1. Firstly, I would highly recommend maintaining the list of the websites that you use for your transactions. Ensure that you have the correct web address of those websites. You can maintain these websites in the form of Excel or they can be in simple plain text document. Essentially, the purpose of doing this exercise is to create a reference point that you can use should you be redirected to the malicious websites by following the embedded links in emails or the mobile messages. Consider an example where you have received the phishing email or SMS from Amazon. The messages have the malicious links embedded into it, and accidentally, if you clicked on the link, you will be redirected to the phishing website of Amazon. And the first thing that you have to check is the web address, as I explained earlier. And you can check the web address by looking it in the address bar of the browser. And if that web address is not matching with the list of the web address you are personally maintaining, then you can mark that website as the phishing website. Tip number 2. Identity theft is another growing concern among the internet user. I was watching the news and I saw the old couple crying in the front of the camera, and I believe they lost a big amount of money just because they shared their identity documents with someone which they really trusted. It works like this. When you set up your account with a bank, tax office, or insurance company, you provide your identity documents such as your driver license, passport, or any other document that uniquely identifies you. Now, these bodies can ask you for additional information such as your date of birth, the mother's maiden name, your home address, your contact number. When you call the bank will authenticate you based on the details you have submitted during the account setup process. Now, just imagine if the cybercriminals gain access to your identity documents or information, they can call the banks or other similar bodies and can impersonate you by answering the questions to the bank officials. You understand the gravity of the situation now. You are not calling, the cyber criminals are calling as if they are calling for you. And unless you have implemented the voice prints in the system, there is no other way to detect or determine that the caller is the fraudulent person. So, the importance of protecting the identity document becomes even more vital here because if it goes in the wrong hands, they can impersonate your identity and they can even initiate the transactions on your behalf even without your knowledge. And again, it all starts with the phishing email or the mobile messages having the malicious links into it. I am repeating this again and again. It doesn't happen overnight. They know who you are, then they create a very polished email or the messages having the malicious embedded links. You follow the links, you are redirected to the phishing website, which is the mirror copy of the authentic website. And if you don't catch the fraud or the phishing website by looking at the web address in the address bar of the browser, most likely you end up doing the transaction and you hand over your information in the wrong hands. Tip number three, never click the embedded links. I have spoken about this several times. If you have a compelling reason to access the website, I recommend entering the web address manually. And as an alternate, as I demonstrated you can use password manager to launch the website. Use strong passwords. Weak passwords can be cracked easily. The strong password should be at least 8 characters long using the combination of the numbers, letters, and special characters. Even you can mix up the uppercase and lowercase letters along with the special characters and numbers to generate the strong password. And if you are not comfortable about the strength of the password, you can make use of the password manager to generate the strong password for you. Password manager will do it for you. This is important, specifically when people are going on holidays and vacations and they are looking around for the ticket bookings and other reservations. And for example, if they are sitting in a restaurant or in an hotel, they try to make use of the free public Wi Fi. I highly recommend not to do that because these free public Wi Fi networks implement low level security and these networks can be easily hacked. And if you are doing any transaction, there is no guarantee your transaction is successful. Quite possible you may end up giving your information to someone else inadvertently. And still you have the compelling reason to use the Wi-Fi. I suggest using the tethering option of mobile hotspot. Mobile phone gives you an ability to act as a Wi-Fi source for you. You can just create your own personalized Wi-Fi network and then you can connect other devices to use that Wi-Fi network. The overall implementation of information security follows three easy to follow steps. It's not that difficult. You need the education and you need the tools. Education plus tools gives you the enough protection to stay safe online. As I mentioned earlier, education is everything, and more than 90% of cyber attacks and online frauds could have been avoided. Therefore, it's important to know the latest and greatest about the internet security and constantly update the security software provided by your vendor. This is important because vendors are doing constant research, they come to know the new threats, and accordingly, they update the software. And those software updates are constantly pushed to you. Make sure your software is up to date. And with this, I come to the end of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and found this useful. And I am taking the questions.
Thanks, Yagya. The first question is about the website google.com. As soon as we enter this URL, we are redirected back to the original Google website. Can you please clarify if this site exists?
I'm glad you asked this question because this is the website which doesn't exist. I have created the snapshot of Google, Google, by simply adding an extra O in the address bar and just took the snapshot of this. Because it's an offense to create the phishing website, it's purely for learning and demonstration purpose.
Another question. This is about the usage of free public Wi Fi. Are there any specific circumstances when we should avoid using it?
Although I highly recommend to avoid using the free public Wi-Fi, when I say transaction, that essentially means you are entering your login credentials or you are making some purchase, you are making some bank transactions, and that is something I strictly want to avoid when I am on free public Wi-Fi network. I would prefer to use my mobile tethering option if at all I want to use the Wi-Fi network.
There's another follow up question related to free public Wi Fi. Should we completely avoid using free public Wi Fi?
That doesn't necessarily mean that you can completely avoid the free public Wi-Fi network. And if you're not sure how to use the mobile tethering option, it's good to use the mobile network directly. Or if still you want to use the free public Wi-Fi network, I would suggest to keep my internet activity just for general browsing, looking for the information. And as long as I am not entering my login or payment details anywhere in the free public Wi-Fi network, I think I should be okay. But my overall advice is to avoid as much as you can.
Another interesting question. Is there a way to know the target web address before we follow the link?
It depends which device you are using. If you are using the desktop computer, it is pretty easy and straightforward to identify. Just hover over the mouse on the link and look at the bottom left hand corner. It will display the URL of the target website. But it is slightly tricky when it comes to the mobile device. The best way to determine the web address on mobile device is to long tap the link. Just tap it and hold it for 3 or 4 seconds, I suppose. Then it will pop up the web address of the target URL. I believe this is the quickest way to identify the web address of the target websites.
I got another question about the VPN. You have spoken about using the VPN to secure the transaction. There are free VPN available in the market. Do you think they are good?
I will not suggest using the free VPN, which is available free of cost. There are some good VPN solution from Nord, IPVanish, or even you can use the VPN provided by the security software such as Kaspersky. But definitely, I will not suggest to go with the free VPN because recently there have been vulnerabilities and people received the attacks, cyber attacks on free VPN.
Thanks, Yagya, for addressing the questions.